All right, guys, we're back with another episode of Will It Blend? No, I'm just kidding. What we're actually going to be doing today is we're going to be taking my Pagani Design. We're going to be salvaging the case out of it. We're taking the VK63 movement out, the dial, hands as you see them. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to see, and a lot of people were wondering this as well, I think. I wanted to see if you could fit an original ETA G10.212 mission to moon watch movement with dial into this case, and also for the other half of the audience, we're going to see if we can fit a PE50 movement in the same fashion. So I assume if one fits, the other fits. The big question is going to be whether or not my existing movement rings that I have will fit the same way they do in the original VK63 case that we've already done. This might require some tweaking. We're going to take some measurements. We're going to figure it all out. I think it's going to be no problem. I have a friend on Instagram who doesn't do videos, but he says that he's done it before and it's not that big of a deal. So we're going to go through it, and you and I are going to experience that together here now. So let's get started. First things first is we have to strip this down. As you noticed, I've already taken the original Moonswatch movement out of its case, and I've also taken the replica Moonswatch dial and movement out of its case. So I'm not going to show you all that. It's a process that I've covered many times in my other videos. If you want to see that, make sure you go and check that out. But for today, all we really need to do is make sure that this is gutted so that we can see how well these are going to fit. We're going to take some measurements and we'll go from there. So first things first, let's take this band off and get the case back open. This is my one of my most favorite bands that I get. It's the butterfly clasp in the Omega style, no branding, of course, and it is really easy to put on and off. You never have to adjust it. It's always set to your wrist, boom, boom. And I really love the style, the textures, all that stuff. I'll leave a link to this in the description, as I've done before, in case this is the first one you're watching it. But this is a really nice band, and it's not that expensive. So put that aside. And now we need to get into the case back. I don't know, I haven't opened this yet from the factory. I know it's a VK63 movement. This is a really great watch. I really love this watch as it sits. It's got a ceramic bezel. That's one thing I want to do real quick. I'm going to take one of the Moonswatch cases that we've done previously, the VK63 case. This just happens to be an Eyes on the Stars. And I just wanted to go through the differences again. This, of course, the one that we've been dealing with, the one I've used in my other videos, it's a metal bezel. It's got it's very thin. It's a metal with printed black over the silver bezel. It has a nice look. It's very very pleasing to the eye, whatever you want to say. But this is the Pagani, and it's got the ceramic bezel. So it's a ceramic bezel that's engraved with the numbers. It's a different way to do it. Both are great. But the biggest difference between these two, and this is the reason why we're doing this, is my friend who I built the original Moonswatch for, the guy with more money than sense, has launched this channel into what it is today. So I thank him for having more money than sense. But nevertheless, he was not pleased with how thick this watch was. It just sits a little bit too wide on his wrist. And the reason is because this is around 15 millimeters thick total. And the beauty of this Pagani design is that it's a full, 0.75 millimeter narrower. And it doesn't seem like a lot, it doesn't feel like 0.75 of a millimeter is that much to crack at. But the real wearability of this watch, look at them side by side, you can see. These two watches are just significantly different in the depth on them. Even though on paper it's not, they just feel different on your wrist for whatever reason. So that's why he wants to switch over to this thinner case. It sits a little bit better on his wrist, and we're going to go with it. So, all right, let's get this thing open. There it is. That is your VK63A Seiko movement. This is a movement that's made by TMI, Time Module Incorporated, or something to that effect. It's owned by Seiko. It creates movements for non-Seiko watches. So this is a non-Seiko branded watch, so it gets the TMI. In a different factory, under the same specs, same everything, this same movement is made for Seikos themselves, and it has a different branding on it. Heck, for all I know, these are made in the same factory, and they just have a different engraver at the end that stamps one TMI Japan, and the other says Seiko Japan. I don't know. In any case, it is a Seiko movement, and there it is. So we're going to take this out real quick. We have to obviously get the stem out. And to do that, there is I'm just going to show it to you real quick. Let's see if I can zoom in after I get my little screwdriver, which I can't see. There it is. Okay. So I'm going to get it nice and close. So there's a little hole right here, and the crown is released by a little pin in that section there. And if I'm not mistaken, it's done so in the first position. So we're going to find that out. It's been a while since I pulled a stem out of a VK63, but I'm fairly certain. I apologize if I'm blocking the view here. Let me get a thicker tool. There we go. So this one's a little tricky. You have to find that little lever that goes down, and it is in the first position. So stem is out, easy enough. What we're going to do next is we're going to see if this thing will fall out on its own. It will not. So we're going to take the movement ring out first. Gently just pull up on all the edges one by one. Just gently go all the way around it, and eventually it will come out. You don't want to pry it. It will break. You don't want to twist it. It could affect the movement. So there we go. Just all the way around, little bit by little. Put that aside. And then, as we did before, what you want to do is you want to place your tool or your plate there and get that out. So that's the Pagani Design Moonswatch. What do you call it? An homage. And with the VK63. Ignore the fact that I just threw it across the table. Don't pay any attention to that. Do not look behind the curtain. All right. Now we have the case. Let's take some measurements and figure out what we're dealing with. Now, I want to take this side by side with the original, because I've developed the movement rings, or I've, refined them to be a nice snug fit for this case. I actually have one in there already. I think I salvaged this from a different watch. So, okay, so basically, I think we're looking at 33 millimeters is the total inside diameter, and let's just confirm that on the originals. Yeah, 33.12. And then you're going to have a total depth. Let me do it here. Total depth of 5.76. And that's not including the case back. The case back is, depending on which one you have, Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. If you have the eyes on the stars, you're going to have slightly less, I believe. And if you have the silver case back, it's going to be slightly more. What you do is we're going to take the dimensions of the outside versus the inside, and that'll tell you what extra depth you have. But just for now, 5.75 we'll say, and 33 millimeters across on the original. That's what that ring will fit. So let's check the Pagani Design one, and we'll see where we're at. Let's get you in frame here. We're looking at pretty close, 33.02. It's maybe 0.1 millimeter difference. That's good enough because we can easily sand that off if we have to on the original. The depth, .59. So yeah, we're looking at that 0.55 millimeters less. And if you remember, the case overall was about 0.75 less. So that's probably where some of that's coming from. I know that the case back also has a little bit different. I think this one's just going to be a little bit less depth, if you can see those side by side. I'm not going to take those measurements just yet. I just want to wing it when we put the new movement in, and we'll go from there. So, all right. So here we are. Again, we're going to see if this existing ring, I have this is for the eyes on the stars, and then this one is going to be for the silverback because one is slightly thicker. There's some issues going on with the case backs that make this different. I won't go into that. I've covered that in other videos, but nevertheless, we're going to try to get this one to work. I noticed that on these fresh off the printer, they're about 33.14. They're designed for a snug fit. I remember that other case was about, yeah, just about that, maybe just slightly less. So, of course, we're looking at 33 right on the nose. So what we're going to have to do probably is to shave that. And the way I do it and the way you can do it, with every one of these that I sell, I give you a little piece of sandpaper. It's not much, but it should help with the minor adjustments. But I have a file. It's just a micro file, and it makes it a little easier. But if you had a piece of sandpaper, you would just put it on there, and you would sand all the way around just a little bit, just enough to make it a little less wide, just 0.1 millimeter less. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it off camera, but you understand what I'm doing. I'm just taking a little bit off each one. So, okay, we're back. I just took a piece of sandpaper and it ended up being a little bit easier. I don't know what we're at now, but we're going to test fit it to see. Yeah, that's nice and tight, and that's what she said, right? Just the way we like it. All right, so I'm going to pull that back out. We're going to try to fit the movement. And now remember, this one was for the PE50 because it's got the little flat side there that fits that movement pretty well. So we're going to try that one first. We're going to see how that goes. And then we'll move on to the genuine one. The big thing is, of course, we know that the width fits now. The big thing is going to be whether the case back will fit on with the depth of this, the way it sits. And I don't know yet. We'll have to find out. All right, so first what we want to do is we want to put that movement there. Okay, it looks like the fitment on this little notch is a little tight. So we're going to go in, we're just going to shave a little bit off of it. All right, that's a little too tight still. It seems that when it's compressed outwards from the movement itself, it tightens it up in the case a little bit. So I'm going to take a little bit more off the edge. I'm going to do that off camera, and then we'll come back. Okay. Took a little bit more off of that. We'll see how that fits now. There we go. Again, that's a nice fit. It's not perhaps even a little too tight, but it's okay. We're a little off rotation here, so I'm going to rotate it just a little bit. Try to do that in. I'm going to have to pull that out again. It rotated just a little bit in the case, so my stem isn't lining up, and it's so snug in there that it's not rotating. It's not rotating while it's all in place. I don't want to pull that out again, but it looks like I have to. All right. So as we made that mistake, what the correct way to do this is going to be is to put the stem in before we put the movement ring in. That'll keep that aligned and we know it's in the right place. So we're going to do that now. I should have done that to begin with. My mistake. I'm not going to put the crown on it just yet. I'm just going to put my blank PE50 stem in there. There we go. So now that that's in there, we know that it's going to stay in place and not try to rotate more than a few fractions of a millimeter at least. Okay. There we go, and it's just a little bit off center, but at least we can take this now and just a little bit more. There we go. What notice what I'm doing is I'm trying to get that stem lined up perfectly in between the gap. Pretty close. All right, so the big trick now is to see whether or not this is going to fit on the back. And to do that, we need the case back. Okay, actually, I'm going to tidy up this bench a little bit before we go any further. There's a lot of stuff lying around. I don't like that. So that's the genuine. There's an empty case. There's that. We don't need that. That's the Pagani. There's. All right, so how's the big reveal? Will this case back fit with the existing movement holder? Would you look at that? It would appear as if it does. So there you go. That's the replica movement. And I'm not going to cut a stem, add that. But what I do want to do is I want to check something. And looks like the depth is a little bit off. It's not too bad. What I mean by depth is the movement has to be a certain position for that stem to line up in the vertical position. So right now it looks like it's maybe 0.1 or 0.2 millimeters too far closer to the crystal side. You could fix that with a movement ring in there, or with a spacer ring like I do with the genuines. I don't know if it's that important. That stem will bend just a little bit in order to fit in that slight difference. What I wanted to check was the pushers, of course. Well, it looks like that's working. We're going to stop. Yeah. So the pushers work on the PE50. This is almost exactly as if it would be on the old case, the VK63 case. The movement ring fits, and this is the eyes on the stars one, to be fair. And everything else will fit. Obviously, would cut a new stem for this, put the existing crown back on it, wherever it may be. Here it is. The only problem with this is that this is a proprietary, I don't know if you can see that, I'm going to try to focus. Proprietary, Pagani Design crown. And you could polish that off. You can make it blank again. It's just engraved, like a 1/10 of a millimeter, if that. So you could polish that out and it would be generic again. But what I wanted to see, and I don't think this is going to work, but I wanted to see if this crown, which is an Omega crown, I don't know if you can see that. It's got the Omega symbol on there. I want to see if this will work. So that being said, we know that the case back goes on. It looks like it's got a nice tight fit. Everything in there is nice and snug. We're not doing the final step because we're not going to be putting this one. This is going to my friend who's going to have the genuine movement in there, and that is what really matters at this point. So let's get the case back off again. We're going to take this whole setup out. Okay, that comes out. And remember, in the PE50 movement, we have to put it into the second position and then release the stem. There we go. Put that back in my box. Then get that out of there. So I'm going to put this back in the case to protect that. I'm going to put this here, and what I wanted to see is if this thread pattern and this crown size, now this is the 6.5 millimeter, I don't know if you can see that, 6.5 millimeter, and I can leave a link to this if it works. It comes with its own post that threads onto it. I don't particularly want to do that, but we could do that. So let's see if it'll fit first. I don't know. That looks pretty similar. We'll have to see. It is 6.5 millimeters is the smallest I could get this, and it does not look like it fits into that gap that's right there. So I'll show you what I mean. See how that's just a little bit too wide? Now what you could do is you could take a Dremel and you could widen that gap enough to make this Omega crown work. Again, this is the 6.5. I don't believe it comes in a 6. I didn't find it. I'll have to look again. Maybe I can find one, or in a 5.5 perhaps. The other option, of course, is to Dremel that out a little bit. It would be tricky the way that that's designed, and I don't trust myself enough to do that. So unfortunately. Now, that being said, I have tested this on the other one. This case here, the VK63 case. And again, I'll tell you, I'll leave a link to this 6.5 millimeter Omega crown. It was only $5 or $6. This one, I believe, does fit. So I think I've tested this before. Yeah, this screws right on in. It goes all the way down. And that will work. So if you're looking to upgrade your Moonswatch metal case with an Omega crown, this is a cheap and easy way to do it. Of course, that being said, you may have to recut and stem it. The stem height might be different. Yeah, it looks like the original stem is a little bit longer, maybe a millimeter longer. So the stem that you cut for your original will not work with this Omega. You'll have to get a new stem too. But that is something that will work on the original case. It does not look like it's going to work on the Pagani. Unfortunately, that's not ideal, but we'll see if I can fix it in another way. All right, so that being said, let's move on. I'm going to put some of this stuff back away. We're going to clean our workspace. Put this back in here. Unfortunately, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this video into two parts. This part was, of course, the replica fitting into the Pagani case, and then part two, which I'm going to have out in maybe a couple days to a week, will be for the genuine Moonswatch. It's just going to take too long to show both, especially since I know that the genuine Moonswatch fitment is going to be a little more complicated, and it's going to take a little bit more time. There's some issues going on with that we'll cover in the next part two of this video, and hope you'll stick around to see that as it comes out soon. I also wanted to point something else out, and that is in the time that it's taken to produce this video, a lot of the links that I promised you for parts like the strap, like the crown, things of that nature, a lot of those links have died, or they've gotten so expensive they're not even worth buying anymore. Because of these tariffs, because of what's going on in the world right now, Chinese parts are kind of out of touch. And as we all know, that's what's going on. I think it's all going to die down. I think it's all going to fix itself in the long run. But for right now, I'm sorry, I don't have any links. And even if I did give them to you, I wouldn't recommend buying them because they're too expensive. So that's where we're at with that. And one more thing, being that as it may, the cases for these things, like the old VK63 case that we were using, it used to cost about $25, maybe $30 at the most. But now they're in the $45 to $50 range, which makes this Pagani Design case all the more affordable. You can buy these Paganis because they are sold from a U.S. warehouse. Pagani stores these things locally in the United States, which means they're somewhat tariff exempt. And so you can buy these things for around $60 to $65 if you find them on sale, which isn't that much more than the case now is costing for the old case. Just keep that in mind. That's all I got. Stick around for the next video. It'll be out soon. It's pretty awesome because there's some crazy stuff going on, but it looks great in the end. And don't forget to hit that like button. That puts my video out there so lots of people can watch this, which is always a good thing, right? Yeah, whatever. I don't know. And then I'll see you on the next one. All right.